Hi everyone. Today we will talk about proactive metrics. And some of what we will see includes why people gain weight in winter, why people disengage at work, why they wait for problems until it's too late, and most importantly, what to do about it. I will begin with a question. Imagine that you have a manufacturing plant that records one death in 2017, zero deaths in 2018, and zero deaths in 2019. Is the plant getting safer? We cannot say, because maybe the level of safety has been constant, it's 0.5 deaths per year. And in 2017, we got unlucky, and 2018 and 2019, we got lucky. Conversely, imagine that we are measuring injuries. For example, in 2017, there has been 14 injuries, 2018, 8 injuries, 2019, 6 injuries. Can we say that the plant is getting safer? Yes, we can, because the sample is larger, and therefore we can trust the trends a little bit more. And one thing that we will begin with is that good metrics have large samples. Two reasons. One is that the trends are more reliable, which is what we've seen just now. And the other one is that we can know that we have a problem before it hurts us. Imagine that you are the safety manager in the plant, in the first example, and you see that in 2018 there are no deaths, 2019 there are no deaths, and maybe you think that you don't have a safety problem. And then in 2020 you will maybe have one death. So if you use metrics with little samples, you're almost guaranteed that you will only know about a problem after it hit you hard. Conversely, if you use a metric that has a large sample, such as injuries, you're more likely to know that you have a problem before it hits you hard. So you're more likely to receive an injury and know that you have a problem and maybe address it before someone dies. More in general, what we can do is that with a lot of metrics, we can build a pyramid, like the one that is shown here. And the reason it looks like a pyramid is because for each death in a company, usually you have a few injuries. So the base of the pyramid is larger. And what we've seen is that the top of the pyramid describes rare events, and therefore, when the problem will be evident, it will be too late. The base of the pyramid instead describes small problems that can happen before a larger one. They can alert you that a larger one is possible. And therefore, if you measure the bottom of the pyramid in addition to the top, you will iterate faster. You will get a chance to avoid huge problems before they can hurt you too bad. You might already have heard the terms that describe the top and the bottom of the pyramid. For example, lagging indicators for the top, and they are called lagging because they describe the past, they describe what already happened, but they don't have a chance of changing the future. And then the bottom of the pyramid usually describes leading indicators, which are indicators that create the future. Now, this definition is not fully technically correct because injuries, they are lagging indicator. In a way, they describe the future, the past, but they also give you a chance of changing the future, especially for the big things that matter. And that's why I would call them leading indicators, even though technically they are lagging. And that's also why I don't like too much the terms lagging and leading indicators. I prefer to talk about the pyramid. I prefer to talk about the top and the bottom. And also, it's not just about time. It's also about engendering action, making people act. So one thing is that if you look at the top of the pyramid, deaths, what are you going to tell people about it? Don't die? I mean, of course, yes, but that's not very actionable. Conversely, if at the bottom of the pyramid you put behaviors, you're much more likely to give actionable feedback to people. For example, if you choose to put at the bottom of the pyramid the number of people that are wearing safety helmets or other protective equipments in your plant, you're more likely to get feedback which is actionable. For example, wear more personal protective equipment. so that you will eventually get to the same objective, preventing deaths, but it's more actionable. So at the top of the pyramid, usually you put metrics that describe consequences. At the bottom of the pyramid, you want to put metrics that describe causes. And of course, the point is measure the bottom in addition to the top. You measure both, not just the bottom. And the reason is because you need to measure the bottom so that you can improve the top, you can improve the outcomes. But you also need to measure the top to know whether what you're working for at the bottom is working, to know whether it's effective, to know whether it's sufficient. Because a lot of time you build your pyramid, you put some causes at the bottom, and they are good, but they are not enough. And maybe there are other things that you need to care about. And by checking whether the bottom is working on the top is a great way to know whether you considered everything or there are other things that you need to take into consideration. Also, you will not get the top and the bottom of the pyramid right at the first iteration. You cannot know all the behavior that you need to measure and how you need to measure them to effectively work on the top. There will be a continuous iteration, a continuous back and forth between the bottom and the top. And you will mediate it both by experience and critical analysis, which means that you will both try things, see whether they're working, but also you cannot just trust data. You also need to consider whether you need to use your mind and common sense to know whether there might be blind spots, whether data might not tell the full story, and so on and so forth. One key property of the bottom is that the bottom, usually it's something that can be estimated at a glance. I give an example. At the top of the pyramid, you put sales. At the bottom, you put behaviors, such as which clients are contacted, how often, how, and so on. And one additional reason why such a pyramid is useful is because sales, usually they have a long measurement cycle, especially, for example, if your company has seasonal sales. Maybe you're selling toys and you will only know in December whether sales are good enough, whether you had a good season. But you cannot wait to give feedback to your people until December. You need to give them feedback earlier. And that's why you want to put at the bottom of the pyramid things that you can measure and estimate with much faster feedback cycle, so that you can give feedback on a monthly basis or even on a weekly basis, or even you're just, for example, working on the production floor and you can already spot things and give feedback at a glance. So if you use the bottom of the pyramid, you will have shorter measurement cycles, which also means faster iteration. Because you give feedback more often, feedback compounds more often, and the benefits, they compound faster and grow more. You will have fewer misunderstandings, because if you give an objective and then you use a shorter feedback cycle, you can spot immediately if maybe your people misunderstood what you want from them, or they're using the wrong approach, and so on and so forth. And it's good to spot these problems early, because spotting them late is one of the key causes of disengagement at work. For example, you give an objective to someone, and then they earnestly work very hard at it, and maybe they work at it for 1 month, but maybe they misunderstood what you need from them, and maybe they misunderstood because you weren't clear. And if it takes you 1 month to discover that there was a misunderstanding, when you tell them that they've been working for 1 month on the wrong thing, they will be frustrated, they will be upset, and they will lose motivation. And then the second reason is that if an employee of yours is growing, is getting great results in January, you cannot acknowledge him in December, because if you wait until December, by February, he will have learned the lesson that efforts don't pay, they're not acknowledged in the company, and then he will have a react with disengagement. So don't only measure the top of the pyramid, which has long measurement cycles, but also measure the bottom. And the bottom must include things which have short measurement cycles. Let's make an example, losing weight. I believe that one of the many reasons why people put weight during winter is because during winter we tend to wear thicker clothes and we do not discover that we've put on weight until it's too late. You don't discover when you put half a kilo of excess weight. Maybe you keep gaining weight, and only when you gain the 3-4 kilos, it becomes evident. And that's why measuring, just checking yourself in the mirror, that's not really actionable also. So it has two problems. One problem is that it's lagging, so you only discover that you have put weight after you put too much weight. And then it's also not actionable. Maybe you discover that you put too much weight, but you don't really know what you need to do about it. Conversely, if you measure the bottom of the pyramid, things such as eating with moderation, exercising 3 times a week, and so on, you get better feedback. You get feedback when you are still in time to change. For example, if you measure how often you're exercising, maybe you discover that you have some external circumstance that it's not making you exercises as often as you wanted before you gain too much weight. And you're still in time to change things, change your routine maybe, so that you get the exercise you need before you put on too much weight. And then the second reason is that the bottom of the pyramid, again, is more actionable. For example, if you're measuring how much you're eating and you discover that you're eating too much, that's much more actionable, and the solutions you will think about will tend to be more correct or more to the point. Conversely, if someone only focuses on weight, maybe they will not think about the right solution. Maybe they will take shortcuts which are not very effective, such as weight loss pills and so on and so forth. Let's make a second and last example, shooting a basketball. So you can either check things that will stay at the top of the pyramid, so whether the ball is getting in, or you can measure things which are towards the bottom of the pyramid, such as whether you're shooting with the correct shooting motion and whether you're taking good shots during the game and so on and so forth. Bad coaches will give you feedback on the top of the pyramid. For example, they will tell you, good shot. If the ball went in, even if you took a bad shot with a bad shooting motion. And as a result, you will not learn, and maybe you will even reinforce bad habits. Conversely, good coaches will give you feedback on the bottom of the pyramid. For example, they will tell you that you took a bad shot, even if the ball went in, if your technique was bad. And they will tell you, good job, if you shot with the correct technique, even if that time you got unlucky and the ball didn't go in. So if you measure the bottom of the pyramid, you're more likely to learn, and you're more likely to provide feedback, which is good for the long term. Also one additional thing is that the bottom of the pyramid will give you more specific feedback, which is more actionable and is much more provides much more learnings. And that also applies to yourself, even if you don't have a coach, for example. Look for the bottom of the pyramid. And for example, often what you need to do for the bottom of the pyramid is to take notes, to record yourself, and these are great things to learn and improve over time. Now, I encourage to build your own pyramid. So take a sheet of paper and you draw a pyramid which is divided into 2 halves like this one. And then at the top, you write outcomes, what you want to achieve, and they need to be things which are objectively measurable. And then at the bottom, you write the behaviors that will help you achieve them. You write how you will achieve the top of the pyramid. And these are things which need not necessarily to be measurable objectively, but they need to be something that you can measure at a glance. They need to be stuff that has short feedback cycles, that do not need extended period of time to know whether you're on the good path. Now, this framework of the pyramid is incomplete. Usually the pyramid that I teach has 4 layers, which also take care of things such as anti-fragility and survival and exposure to good outcomes and many other parameters. But just as a very short introduction, this 2 layers pyramid is already a very useful tool that you can have to add proactive metrics to what you're measuring, to add metrics which will enhance your learning and will make you more proactive. They will make you work on what matters and work on it before it's too late. Yeah, so this was the basic framework. Then I also talk about how to choose more in details what you put in the pyramid, how to validate it, how to integrate it in already the procedures and the habits that you already have, how to teach it to others, for example, to your employees, to your team, and how to make this whole process anti-fragile so that it adapts over time and it improves from mistakes and problems in my anti-fragile organization course, which you can find here in the link bit.ly/antifragile.orgs. Thank you. That was it for today. And I talk more about the topic of metrics, what to measure, how to integrate anti-fragility, how to make yourself more anti-fragile, how to make your organization more anti-fragile in my newsletter. I will post more things on the topic over the next few days. Thank you.